All right, I asked you guys to do problem 11, so let's do that. I'm going to start by figuring out what quadrant it's in, and I'm going to write down all of them for you so that you can copy them into your notes if you don't have them. All 6 are positive in the first quadrant. Sine and cosecant are positive in the second, which means tangent, cotangent are negative, cosine and secant are negative. In the third quadrant, tangent and cotangent are positive, sine and cosecant are negative, secant and cosine are negative. In the fourth quadrant, cosine and secant are positive, sine and cosecant are negative, tangent and cotangent are negative. I write them that way side by side because those are reciprocals of each other, and a reciprocal always has the same sign. I'm glad y'all can't see that. I just poured Diet Coke with lime all down the front of my shirt like I have a hole in my lip. It's all good. Okay. Right there's the wet spot on my paper where I did that. All right. So, cosine is negative. That means it could be in this quadrant or it could be in this quadrant. Tangent is less than 0. That means tangent is negative. Tangent is negative in this quadrant, and tangent is negative in this quadrant. The only quadrant where both of those is true is quadrant 2. So in this problem, sine and cosecant are going to be positive, tangent and cotangent are going to be negative, cosine and secant are going to be negative. All right. Now my Diet Coke is leaking on my paper up here at the top. Okay. So, start by writing down my given. Cosine of theta equals negative 1/3. Then I do the reciprocal, which is secant of theta, and that's going to be negative 3. You just flip it. Negative 1/3 flipped is negative 3. So I have 2 of the 6 with no work at all. Then I need to use a Pythagorean identity to find another one. I can use the Pythagorean identity that has cosine in it, or I can use the one that has secant in it. I'm going to use the one that has cosine in it. And that one says sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Okay. Cosine is negative 1/3. When I square that, I get positive 1/9. Negative 1/3 times negative 1/3 is positive 1/9. Negative times negative is positive. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. I move it to the other side. This 1 is 9/9. So if I move 1 over, I'm going to have 8/9. So sine squared of theta equals 8 over 9. I take the square root of both sides, and I'm writing plus or minus until I look and see which one it is. Okay. Now in this quadrant, sine is positive, so I'm going to take the positive one. So it's going to be the positive square root of 8 over the square root of 9, but the square root of 9 is 3. And I break down the square root of 8. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2, so I can pull out a 2. And that's going to be 2 on the square root of 2 over 3, and it's the positive one. So let me write it so we can circle it up. Sine of theta equals 2 square root of 2 over 3. Now one of the ones it wanted was cosecant. Well, the flip of sine is cosecant, so let's apply a reciprocal and flip it over. Okay, can't leave a square root in the bottom, so I multiply by a fancy 1. And now on the top I have 3 square root of 2. On the bottom, square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And there's my cosecant. So on the multiple choice that you're going to have, find cosecant, there's the cosecant. Okay? So we have 4 of the 6. Now at this point in time, we can use a reciprocal identity, or not a reciprocal, we can use a quotient identity or a Pythagorean identity. I'm going to use the quotient. Tangent of theta is sine of theta over cosine of theta. So I know the sine. I know the cosine. and I do same, change, flip. And I left the negative in the numerator. Those are going to cancel. And I'm going to get negative 2 on the square root of 2 over 1, which is just going to be negative 2 on the square root of 2. So tangent of theta equals negative 2 on the square root of 2. I'm checking my answer keys. Tangent of theta equals negative 2 on the square root of 2. Okay, now to get the last one. Oh, and let's check signs. In that quadrant, tangent is supposed to be negative, and tangent is negative. Okay, now to get cotangent, we flip the tangent. So to flip this, it's going to be 1 over negative 2 square root of 2. We multiply by the fancy 1. 1 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 2. Negative 2, okay, square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which is 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. We don't leave the negative in the denominator. We bring it to the top. In that quadrant, cotangent is negative, and there it is. So if this was a multiple choice question, this would be my first answer, cosecant. This would be my second answer, cotangent. Okay, so what I would like you to do today is go on CUDA, and you're going to do a redo of trig identities. And let's try to see if we can't be a little more careful today and make some better grades than we made yesterday. If you have questions, you need to call me or text me. Don't just guess, and don't rely on your neighbor because they're going to have different problems than you. All right, I love you guys, and I will see you Monday when we Zoom.